Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson where we're going to talk about danger. I'm going to talk about dangerous things. I'm going to talk about things that can either injure you or something even worse, which would not be a good thing. It's not nice when you live in a world where there are things around us that are just bad for human beings, things that can either injure or kill us. So today in this lesson, I'm going to talk about dangerous things. I have quite a few vocabulary words lined up. And remember, even though this might seem like a vocabulary lesson, I do use a lot of phrases as I talk about each vocabulary word. So it's really good listening practice. It's really good vocabulary practice. It's really good for all around English learning. So welcome to this English lesson about danger. So I'm going to talk about a number of things that will either be bad for you in the sense that they will injure you, or they might actually outright kill you. So this is a pretty serious lesson. I don't know why I'm smiling and joking. I shouldn't do that. But one of the first things that you have to be careful of as a human being is poisonous chemicals. There are many poisonous chemicals in the world. Many of them we use outside in our yards, but even some of the cleaning products you use in your house can be dangerous. If you mix the wrong two cleaning products together, it can produce a gas that is bad for you. If you accidentally get some in your mouth, it could burn or hurt you. So there are poisonous chemicals all around us. There are poisonous chemicals probably in your bathroom right now that you normally see as useful for cleaning, but they can definitely be dangerous. And normally we have this symbol. This is originally a symbol that was used on pirate ships, and it's called the skull and crossbones. It's over there on the far side of the word poison. The skull and crossbones, I think it might also be called the Jolly Roger when it's a flag, is a symbol that we use when we are marking something as being dangerous, okay? So if you do look at some of the cleaning products in your house or some of the chemicals that maybe you have in your garage, some of them might have this sign on it. Of course, it might not be in English, but it will say danger, and then it might say poison or hazardous or something like that. So the little skull on the far side with the two bones is called a skull and crossbones. When I go for my walk, there are a lot of utility poles. In Canada, we call them hydro poles. And on the side of them, many of them have this sticker, which says danger, high voltage. Many of them say, do not climb this pole. Hazardous high voltage above. Danger, high voltage. So electricity is very dangerous. Not just the electricity that you see going that is going through the power lines along your road or street, but the electricity in your house can be very, very dangerous as well. So most of the time when I go for a walk, I do see these stickers. They are on almost every single hydro pole we say in Canada, or utility pole. I think sometimes they're also called telephone poles, but most of the time they have power lines attached to them. So high voltage, also very, very dangerous. It's not very fun to get electrocuted. I've been electrocuted twice in my life, and both times it's been my fault and was not a major injury. Okay, it was just a really quick little zap. I got electrocuted just a little bit twice. Pollution. So we did an English lesson where I talked about pollution a few weeks ago. Pollution is when we put hazardous waste or hazardous chemicals or just outright things that are bad for the environment. And indirectly, these things can also be very dangerous for people. If your water is polluted and you drink it, that can be dangerous. It can make you sick. It can cause things like cancer and other different diseases. So pollution is definitely something that is dangerous or which is of danger to people. So there's a number of ways to say that, but maybe I should have said the lesson is about the word dangerous. I think I've said that a number of times. What I haven't said yet is sometimes in movies, one of the characters will say, danger is my middle name. My middle name is not Danger, by the way. My middle name is Caution. So some people think that AI is dangerous, that someday things will become so smart, machines will become so smart that it will be dangerous for us. So AI, of course, stands for artificial intelligence. And that is when computers and robots start to think for themselves or act in a way where they can learn to do things on their own. So AI, maybe not dangerous yet, but possibly it might be dangerous in the future. We'll have to see what the future brings. So I don't think AI is dangerous, but then again, we don't know what things will look like in 10 or 20 years. Things could change quite rapidly. So heights. Heights of all kinds are dangerous. So heights refers to when you are above the ground for any reason. Maybe like this person, you are at the top of a ladder. Maybe you are at the top of a mountain, or you are looking over the edge of a cliff. If you are ever at if you're in a high place, if you are working at heights, or you're playing or climbing at heights, it's very, very dangerous. At my school, this might make you laugh, but at my school, we have rules for the teachers about working at heights. I am not allowed to stand on a chair or desk if I'm hanging stuff on the wall. I have to use an approved ladder, and I may not go more than 3 steps in the air as a teacher. If I do that, it's considered against the law. It sounds kind of funny. And the funniest thing for me, it was probably a good thing. I shouldn't make fun of it, but we had working at heights training to learn how to use a small step ladder because they didn't want teachers to fall off and injure themselves. So heights, if you fall, even if you fall a short distance, if you land the wrong way, it can be very, very dangerous. You can hurt yourself. You can be injured. It's probably not a good thing to joke about. I should be a little bit careful there. My uncle once fell a short distance and he was in the hospital for a number of days. I think he only fell about a meter. But in English, we say, if you fall the wrong way or if you land the wrong way. So if you land on your feet, usually you aren't injured. But if you land on your back or if you hit your head when you fall, not a good thing. Distracted driving. So I mentioned this in one of my videos earlier, that when I go for a walk along the road, I often see people who are texting while they're driving. Distracted driving is dangerous, not just to the person who is driving, but distracted driving is dangerous for the people who are around that person as well. So distracted driving is definitely very, very dangerous. There is a pretty hefty fine here in Canada for distracted driving, a few $100s. If the police catch you, even if let's say I was driving and I had a coffee and a donut and I was kind of steering with my elbow. In Canada, you could get a ticket for that from the police. But usually when we talk about distracted driving, we're talking about people using their phone while they're driving, either texting or checking their email or doing something else. So distracted driving, definitely a dangerous thing, both for the driver and for the people around that driver. And so reckless driving is a little different than distracted driving. Reckless driving is when you drive with a little concern for the people around you. So you would be driving at a high rate of speed. You would be driving in an erratic way. You might be racing someone. So sometimes we'll see people racing where 2 cars are trying to drive as fast as they can. All of those things are considered reckless driving. We also call it careless driving. There's a number of different charges for this. And we also have something called stunt driving. All of those kind of fall into the category of being dangerous ways to drive. Careless driving, reckless driving, stunt driving. Stunt driving is usually when you're racing someone else or when you're just doing things like your car is a race car, but you're just on a normal road. And then, of course, drinking and driving. This is still a problem in every country in the world, including Canada. Every month in our local paper, They actually published the names of all the people who got caught drinking and driving, because they want people to feel ashamed, I think, that they did that. So drinking and driving, again, very dangerous for the person who is driving, and also very dangerous for the other people on the road, or even people who are walking along the road. So drinking and driving, that's the last of the driving ones, I think. Yes. Allergies. So this is a problem in most places in the world, and there are mild allergies, and then there are very, very, very major allergies. An allergy is when your body doesn't like a substance or a food even. So for myself, I have mild allergies. At this time of year, when the trees have blossoms on them, and when there's a lot of tree pollen in the air, my nose gets stuffed up. So it's not dangerous, but it's certainly an allergy. We have students at our school, though, who have peanut allergies. If they accidentally eat a peanut or have peanut butter, their throat swells up and it's hard for them to breathe. And we have to give them a special needle to stop the allergic reaction. So people who are allergic to something, people who have allergies, notice the two different words there, they can have an allergic reaction. And that allergic reaction can be very, very dangerous, for sure. So we have, most schools in Canada are peanut free. You are not allowed to have peanuts in our school. And so that's related to another thing called food poisoning. Now, food poisoning usually happens when you eat food that isn't cooked properly, maybe from a restaurant or even at home. And it's usually not dangerous. There are some food poisoning situations where it is dangerous, but usually if you have food poisoning, you've eaten food that's not cooked properly, or food that had started to go bad and it has made you really, really sick. In some cases, if you eat, I think there's a certain kind of fish, if you prepare improperly, it's poisonous. And there are certain mushrooms that are very, very poisonous as well. So notice with the word poison, you say, there's poison, something can poison you, and something can be poisonous. There we go. Overeating. So this isn't dangerous on the day you do it. Okay, so overeating, just one sec. I think my microphone is slowly sinking down. Overeating isn't dangerous on the day you do it. So if I eat too much for breakfast one day, it's not dangerous. But overeating for years, if you overeat year after year, it causes you to become obese, which means to be overweight. And it's very hard on your heart. And it really isn't good for your arteries and veins. You start to get clogged arteries and you might get heart disease. So overeating, totally not dangerous on the day you do it. But over time, if you continually overeat as the months and years go by, it can become very, very dangerous. Sharp things. So in English, we say you shouldn't run with scissors. But things like kitchen knives, scissors, things we use every day to prepare food or maybe to cut paper can also be a little bit dangerous. You shouldn't run with scissors. You don't want to accidentally trip when you're running with scissors and cut yourself or stab yourself. That would just be horrible. Let's say you were just thinking, oh, I should cut open this box. And then you accidentally do something silly and you end up cutting yourself with the scissors. Then you have to find a bandage. But definitely sharp things like scissors and knives, even something like a stapler. If you have papers and you're going to staple the papers together. I at school once put a staple into my finger by accident. Not super dangerous, but still it hurt quite a bit. Machinery. So I talked a little bit about this earlier. Machinery is by its very nature dangerous because machinery moves. Machinery has moving parts inside of it. Machinery is usually made out of steel and metal and very hard surfaces. So machinery can be very dangerous. Also because human beings make mistakes. So if you are operating a piece of machinery and you suddenly turn quickly and hit someone by accident, that would be very dangerous. Maybe you're lifting things really high and they might fall off. That would be dangerous. So machinery, like things like forklifts, this is a forklift, tractors, even vehicles, we would consider machinery like trucks. All of those things are very, very dangerous. And usually you need to have special training in order to use most machinery, especially in a factory. But definitely machinery is dangerous. Sorry, I'm laughing because I see Al Gore saying, one should avoid stepping on rakes as well. Yes, that's always the classic. If you step on a rake, it flips up and hits you in the head. Definitely a classic one, Al Gore. Extreme sports. This is something I do not know a lot about, but extreme sports can be very, very dangerous. Things like doing jumps with a dirt bike, mountain climbing, all of those sports where you are either doing something with, a vehicle or some kind of motorsport. Like, let's say you go in a smash up derby. Do you know what a smash up derby is? Smash up derby is when they get a bunch of old cars and people smash into each other until only one car is still driving. Or let's say you go free climbing or mountain climbing. As you get higher and higher, it's definitely more and more dangerous for sure. Radiation. So we generate power in Canada with nuclear power plants. We are a nuclear power plant country. So it is dangerous if something goes wrong at a nuclear power plant. They can accidentally release radiation into the air. So around the world, countries that have nuclear power plants work really hard to build them safely and to have good rules and protocols in place so that we don't have any kind of nuclear radiation. So radiation is just this invisible, dangerous force in the world that can be very, very bad for people. So radiation. There's even small amounts of radiation. Like I think from the sun, we get UVA and UVB radiation. Let me double check my UVA and UVB. Ultraviolet. There we go. UVA rays. I just want to check to make sure there's... Yeah, I'm not sure that's exact. Oh yeah, UV radiation. There we go. Also, when you go and get an X-ray, you're getting some radioactive exposure there as well. Notice I don't know a lot about radiation, so I'm moving on to the next slide. Natural disasters. Now, I think I did a whole lesson on weather and natural disasters, so I'm not going to talk about every type of natural disaster, but certainly hurricanes and cyclones and tornadoes and tsunamis and all of the different types of things that happen on the earth on a large scale can be very, very dangerous. Flooding in some cities as well. So natural disasters, definitely another thing that can be extremely dangerous to human beings. I think when you see a natural disaster up close, you realize how small human beings are. Like if you, I haven't seen a tornado, but I would imagine if you saw a tornado or if you saw a tsunami, you would feel very small in the sense of people just aren't that big compared to a huge natural disaster. Fire is definitely dangerous. We did a lesson a few weeks ago on fire. If you touch fire, you get burnt, and burns are not very nice at all. And then we mentioned lightning earlier. Lightning can be very dangerous. I almost was struck by lightning once when I was a younger person. I was working for someone. I was painting the side of a building and I was standing on metal scaffolding, and my friend and I were painting and we heard lightning hit and there was thunder at exactly the same time. That's how close it was. And we saw little sparks go between the scaffolding and the building, and then we just quickly climbed down and went inside. We were very, very scared. It was certainly a frightening experience for the both of us. Thin ice. This is not something that is dangerous in every country in the world, but if you live in a northern country or a very southern country that has winter and has ice, there is a time when the ice is not thick enough to walk on. So often in Canada in the late fall, there will be signs like this along our lakes: danger, thin ice, because people sometimes walk out on the ice. So I see I have a super chat. Thank you very much for that super chat. That is awesome. But people will walk out on ice that's too thin, and they can fall through the ice, and that's not good. When you fall through the ice, it's hard to get back out because ice is slippery, and it's also very, very cold. The water is so cold that you only have about 1 or 2 minutes to get back out. So thin ice is very, very dangerous. There's also something called undertow. We have undertow in our lakes, and there's undertow at when you go to the ocean. Generally, when you go to the beach, the water comes in, the waves come in, but the water then flows back out at the bottom. And so you can kind of get pulled by an undertow out into the water. It's never a good thing. So there are some beaches in Canada when we go to the Great Lakes that say danger, undertow, or they might say riptide is another way to refer to currents in the water along a beach that can be very, very dangerous. Wild animals. So in Canada, we have wild animals. We do not have hippopotamuses or hippos, but wild animals are still very dangerous in almost every country. In Canada, we have things like moose and elk and bears, and they are all very, very dangerous. In some countries, you have lions or panthers, or a hippo is actually dangerous. Rhinoceroses. You might even have snakes that if they bite you, it's very, very bad. You might have venomous snakes. I think we say venomous. I don't think we say poisonous snakes. Someone should look that up. But maybe in some parts, maybe you're visiting the US and there are rattlesnakes in the state you are in. So you need to be careful. Wild animals, definitely dangerous. We also have Canadian geese. They're not super dangerous, but they will chase you. They can get a little bit angry. But wild animals, definitely dangerous in almost every part of the world. Polar bears are dangerous, I've heard. I've never seen one. Here's another one that kind of affects a bunch of different things, but fumes can be dangerous. When you are filling your car up with gas, you can actually see gas fumes coming up on a hot day, and those aren't especially dangerous, but there are fumes that can be given off by different things that are bad to breathe in, okay? On a farm, there are a couple of times when farmers put crops into what's called a silo, and it generates really bad fumes for a few days. So fumes are like kind of a smelly gas, and if you breathe it in, it is bad for you. Disease. So we did mention this one already a little bit, but diseases like COVID obviously can be very, very dangerous for humans. When you have a disease, it means that your body is fighting off something, either a virus or some kind of bacterial infection. But disease is definitely not something that is good for humans. And then humans. So as I was doing my research on dangerous things, so when I put these lessons together, I sit down and I do a bunch of searches. And the number one thing that kept coming up is that humans are very dangerous to other humans. So one of the most dangerous things in the world is not actually a thing, it's other people. I didn't realize that, but statistically, more people are hurt, injured, or killed by other people, either directly or indirectly, than most other things in the world. So don't quote me on that. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that. But in my research, it became evident that humans cause pollution, humans commit crimes, humans are accident prone, humans do outrageous, dangerous things. Humans, either through their own actions or because of the actions of others, come into harm's way or are injured. So humans, Very, 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 very dangerous, but also totally awesome, right? Like we're kind of a funny species in that way. War is dangerous, of course. Don't have to talk much more about that, but anytime there is war, there is danger because there are going to be soldiers fighting each other and causing situations that are just very, very dangerous. Space is very dangerous. So if you go into space, you need to wear a spacesuit because an astronaut cannot survive in space. Space has no air. You are unable to breathe. It is extremely cold in space. It's not warm at all. So the conditions for humans to thrive and to live don't exist in space. So you need a spaceship, you need a space station, or you need a spacesuit in order to survive in space because the vacuum of space is extremely dangerous. And the sun is dangerous. So this is interesting. Some of us burn really badly if we're in the sun without sunscreen. Some people don't, but for myself, I am someone who, when I'm in the sun, my skin gets a darker, gets a tan. And if I don't wear some kind of sunscreen, instead of getting a nice brown tan, I turn red, and then for about a day or two, I'm in pain. So the sun is just a little bit dangerous. If you get a sunburn, it's not immediately dangerous, but if you get a sunburn over and over again, it can eventually cause skin cancer. So because Jen and I burn easily, okay, if we're in the sun, we burn easily, we always wear sunscreen or suntan lotion when we go outside. Let's see here. Sometimes we will have a heat wave in Canada. A heat wave in Canada is when it's over 30 or 32 degrees for more than 3 days, I think, which probably, again, doesn't sound warm for most of you, depending on where you live. But a heat wave can be extremely dangerous, especially for people who have trouble breathing or old people, okay? Older people, a heat wave can be a very dangerous time for them when it's just extremely hot. For Jen and I, because we're relatively healthy, when we have a heat wave, we usually get up early and we work on the farm till about noon. And then we will just kind of relax in the house because we have air conditioning until about 5 o'clock. And then we will go back out and work again. So if we do have a heat wave in the summer, we tend to stay inside during the hottest part of the day and have a siesta. Yeah, I think so. A nap, have a little nap. Yes, Modags mentions that heat wave can cause heat stroke. So when you have heat stroke, it means that you've gotten too warm and you haven't had enough water to drink and your body is just overheating. So there's two natural disasters that I'm going to mention that weren't in my other lesson on natural disasters. One is a landslide. So if you live along a hill or a mountain, sometimes dirt and rocks and rubble can kind of fall down the side of the hill or mountain. And we would call this a landslide. In Canada, we do have landslides. Even near me, there is a road that goes along kind of a cliff, and regularly there are little landslides. Usually no one gets hurt, but there are some times when there's a rock slide and then people can get hurt from that. And then we mentioned avalanche. Out in Western Canada, we have the Rocky Mountains, and there is a lot of snow. There is a lot of snow on those mountains. And so at different times of the year, there can be avalanches. And an avalanche is when a lot of snow comes down the side of the mountain all at once. So avalanche is definitely very dangerous. And again, I'm not going to mention all of the other natural disasters, but definitely natural disasters are dangerous for sure. Tsunamis are dangerous. Drought is dangerous. Flooding is dangerous. Volcanoes are dangerous. What else? Hurricanes are dangerous. Cyclones are dangerous. All very dangerous. So pets. Now, I don't think this dog in particular is dangerous, but I have a friend who was out for a run a few months ago, and they were bitten by a dog, and that dog was someone's pet. So regularly you will hear news stories where someone was attacked by someone else's dog. Okay. Generally, cats aren't dangerous, although they might try to claw you or scratch you. But usually in the news, when we hear about someone being injured or attacked, it's usually by a dog. So dogs, as pets, dogs are probably one of the most dangerous pets. They're also 99% of the time friendly and nice. There's just a few dogs that are vicious, and sometimes the pet owner doesn't train the dog or maybe doesn't keep the dog on a leash. A leash is what you use to hold your dog. And that dog can then be a very dangerous thing, especially if you're out for a walk or a run. Being lost can be dangerous. This happens in Canada every once in a while because we are a large country with lots of wilderness. We have lots of forest. Sometimes people become lost. They become lost, and then they might have what they call exposure. So when you suffer from exposure, it means you've been outside for days on end without enough food or water. But definitely every year we hear of someone who goes off the hiking path and gets lost in the woods or lost in the forest. And then definitely that can be dangerous, especially if they can't find their way back. So here you see on the beach, someone has written the words SOS. This is the universal message of help, basically. And I think it stands for save our souls or save our ship. It has an older meaning, but SOS definitely, if you see SOS somewhere, it means someone is lost or in trouble and needs to be rescued. Illegal drugs. So I think every country in the world struggles with the danger of illegal drugs. In Canada, we have an illegal drug problem. I think every country does. In our major cities and out in the country, people get addicted to drugs. People take drugs that they're not supposed to take. They take them because they make them feel really good for a short period of time. And so illegal drugs can result, though, in something called an overdose. So an overdose is when you take too much of a drug and it has a bad effect on you. Either it causes you to become unconscious, it can even cause you to pass away or to die. But illegal drugs, definitely dangerous, definitely a problem in every country around the world, including Canada. Smoking, I've mentioned before, another one of those, my voice isn't working. Another one of those things where on the day you smoke the cigarette, it isn't necessarily dangerous. And everyone knows of someone's grandpa who smoked his whole life and lived to be 100. So it's definitely not dangerous to everyone. But for the vast percentage of people who smoke, after doing it for years and years, it is dangerous. And it affects your lungs, it affects your breathing, and it can even give you lung cancer or other cancers of the mouth. So smoking, definitely dangerous over when you do it for years and years. And then jobs can be very dangerous. In Canada, you have to have insurance when you do different jobs. And so because you need insurance in case of injury, they've kind of categorized which jobs are dangerous and which aren't. Teaching is not dangerous at all. It's very, very low on the scale of dangerous jobs. The chance of me being injured or harmed at work is very, very, very slim. Farming is a dangerous job. Being a firefighter is a dangerous job. Being a police officer is a dangerous job. Working in a factory, like a steel factory, is a dangerous job. So definitely there are jobs that are far more dangerous than other jobs. And sometimes you'll say, well, it comes with the territory. That's an English phrase where you just think, well, if you're going to become a farmer, you have to realize it is dangerous. It just comes with the territory. And so again, Jen and I try to be as safe as we possibly can on the farm. And our farm is smaller, but definitely a small farm, there's just as much chance for something bad to happen as on a larger farm. So jobs can be dangerous. Teaching English on YouTube, not super dangerous, I don't think. At least nothing's fallen on me. I got bit by mosquitoes once doing a live stream outside. That's about as dangerous as it gets.